Okay, so we're going to be looking at how to use Google Sheets to create segments within the data today. And the reason why I use Google Sheets is because it helps me to visualize the data and seeing the data in a way that a pivot table can display it is actually really helpful. The reason for that is because when I'm looking at data in a tabular format, it's quite confusing to create segments. I'm just in MailChimp here, so you can see that I have got an email address, I've got first name, last name, I've got these tags, and I've got some other columns, and I can create segments by doing searches. I can, a lot of us know about how MailChimp works and how you can work with tags and how you can create groups. However, one of the things that I found is that for my brain it's difficult because I don't visualize data like that. What I'm actually going to show you is something different, and it's using Google Sheets, which is free, and it's got a very powerful tool in it called Pivot Table. So the way in which it works is you need to export your data into Google Sheets first of all in order to do this. What I've done is I've already exported some data here. Now I've actually, on this file I'm just using generics, so it doesn't really matter what you see. And I've got a list of companies that we know are using Shopify, and I know what their tech spend is. But there's a lot of companies in the spreadsheet, so if I go down to here, I mean there's 44,000 companies that we've got using Shopify. I could do things like, so if this was all in MailChimp, I could create a little segment, and then I could write my email to that segment, and I could use the columns to create that segment, and then once I've done it I could save it and off I go. However, if I download it and put it into Google Sheets, I've got this tool over here which is, where is it? Here it is. So first of all, you need to have your column names quite well laid out, because the column names are going to be important when you're creating a pivot table. A pivot table takes the data from rows and it allows you to create groups of rows based on the content of that row. So I could, for example, want to see all of the companies that have got a tech spend of $1,000 a month. I could also take, for example, all of the companies that have got that are in a specific vertical, and so on and so on. You get the idea. So in order to do that, I just need to make sure that I've got my header row and that I've got my data and that it's all laid out and that it's so that you can see it as you're scrolling down. Then what I want to do is I want to go along to insert, where is it? So I'm going to go to data and I'm going to go to pivot table. And when I click on that, what that's going to do is it's going to create a pivot table in a new sheet from this range of data. Now I can just select a particular range. In this case, I'm going to do the whole thing. So it's A1 to AF44717. So it's all of my data. So I've got columns going from A1 through, if you think down at the bottom right hand side is cell AF44717. So if I click create, what that's going to do is this is really simple. It's such a simple tool, but what it does is absolutely, it's great. If you're used to pivot tables in Excel, you'll know that this is really powerful. It takes a while because it's crunching through a lot of data. It's doing a lot of work at the moment. But once it's finished, it will allow me to look at the data in a completely different way. Now, just in case it took too long for it to display the results in this video, I have already created one, which if I click on, it's going to show me what it looks like. So if I just move myself out of the way up there. What we've got over here on the right hand side, we've got the different tags that we can use, or the different column headers that we can use to create the spreadsheet. So on the right hand side, it will give you some suggestions, which is why it's doing some work at the moment. It's doing some work because it's trying to think, oh, what should I suggest that my user is going to benefit from? And if you click a button, it just creates it. But you can also create, look, it's not found anything because I've probably already created them all for this one. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to see on the vertical, I'm wanting to see the columns of the tech spend. So I want to break down my data, and I want to see which verticals are spending, or which companies within these verticals are spending on tech a month. So in this one here, I've got 4 companies that are spending more than $1,000 a month on technology in careers. On this one, I've got 445. So this is 445 rows on the original sheet that are spending more than $1,000 a month, and they're in the vertical business and industrial. Now, what is really powerful about this particular way of doing things is that if I double-click on one of these cells, it can be any one of the cells where we've got a value in it showing us or indicating to us how many records there are. If I double-click on that, it will actually build that data set for me. And that is really powerful. So it's done that segmentation for me. So it's shown me a breakdown of all of the different values. So it's done all the maths for me, and then it has allowed me to understand a little bit more about which companies are within that target audience. And I've got obviously all the original information that was available on them on the master sheet. So what I can now do with this is I can create a campaign specifically for companies. This one here is Style and Fashion, $500. So this is companies within Style and Fashion vertical that are spending more than $500 a month on technology from what we can see on their website. And these are the generic email addresses that I've got for them. Obviously, Email Movers provides personal email addresses or corporate emails for specific individuals within those companies. But just for the purposes of keeping that personal information off a video, I've used these generics. But what I could now do is I could upload these generics back into MailChimp, and I could create a campaign, and I could make that campaign specifically relevant to companies that are spending more than $500 a month in Style and Fashion. So what I want to do there is I want to create the copy of my email that is relevant just to those people. So I can see that you're spending roughly, or I can see you're spending upwards of $500. Hi, Paul. I can see that you're spending, or I can see that the, let's have a look. I can see that Dura Watches is spending roughly more than $500 a month on technology right now. As this is a significant value for a Style and Fashion brand, I was wanting to see whether or not, bang, bada, bum, bada, bum. And what I've done is I've used the information that I've got on the spreadsheet to create the copy of my email. And I may only go to, let's just see how many there are in here. So I may only send that email to 1.5 or 1,300 people or companies. But as most of you will know, the strategy that I suggest companies use now in order to increase engagement is to reduce the volume of emails that you're sending, but improve the relevancy. So in order to do that, you need to be able to get granular with your data. And Google Sheets is a great tool to help you do that. And it's free, and it's done a lot of data crunching there. Now I'm actually running on an old Mac, but you can see here when I go back to this original spreadsheet that I clicked on, it's now finished doing its stuff. It's crunched all of the data, brought it across, and now I can start to look here. So it's made some suggestions: count of domain for each tech spend US dollar, number of unique quantcasts for each vertical, a count of location on site for each GDPR. So those are just things that it's picked out. You can create your own just by clicking Add. So if you say that in the rows down you want to have company, let's say you want to have, well, I'm going to put, let's say, vertical, and then in the columns I'm going to put tech spend, and then in the actual values I'm going to put email addresses. So let's go down to there. I'm going to put emails. Now once I've actually done that, what is going to happen is that is going to, when it's finished crunching all the data, that is going to show here on the left hand side. And what that means is that I'll be able to see those companies' email addresses that have got a tech spend of more than $500 a month in those different verticals. And it's working its way. I've got a 2015 Mac here, so it takes a while to do it. But the pivot table that I originally came out with when I did it and left it alone and made a coffee whilst it was doing it was this one here. And you can see that it worked out the values for each one. Then when I click on that value, so I click on that cell, it creates a new spreadsheet, and that new spreadsheet is the spreadsheet that I'm going to target with my email, and I'm going to make it really relevant to that audience. Now, obviously, if you're testing, running all sorts of A/B split testing stuff on this, you can see which audience is responding the most to the emails that you're sending out, which can help you get closer and closer to seeing who which audience your product appeals to the most. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how I use Google Sheets in order to create pivot tables and really drill down on specific audiences. I've got loads of other videos about this kind of stuff. It's all about trying to get down, improve engagement by reducing the volume of emails that you're sending. So obviously this wouldn't be possible if I didn't have all of these additional columns on the database here. If I only had the email address, for instance, I wouldn't be able to do anything. And our tool, Contact Enhance, allows you to upload an email address and then get all of this additional information back, add it to that email address, and then start to do your segmentation. So if you don't have all of this additional information, you can use Contact Enhance to get it. If you bought a file from Email Movers, you'll automatically get a lot of this information. And with that information, you can then start to create very small groups of people that you're sending to. Don't be afraid of sending to a couple of hundred people. We've got a trainee in the office at the moment who I'm trying to show him how this works, and he's desperately wanting to send to more and more people. And I keep saying, just go to a couple of hundred people with that message and see what happens. I have often, and this is going to sound crazy, but I have often targeted one person at a time with an email until I've started to get a response from those people, because I need to know what level of relevancy I have to include in my email to get that person to respond when it's a cold email. And sometimes you have to be really, really, really relevant. One thing that we're running at the moment for a particular client is where they are they're a surveyor, and they help companies with their business rates. And what we're doing is we're adding information to our database about business rates from various different sources, and that allows us to make our emails really, really relevant. So for instance, we can see which companies have not had an exception for the public toilets in their facility, and we know that you can get an exception for allowing the public to use your toilets. And as a result of that, we can target those companies, and there may be only a couple of thousand with that specific message, and say, did you know that if your toilets are available for public use, you are paying business rates on that area in the office, or in that retail outlet or that restaurant or whatever it is, you're being overcharged, and you could appeal and get some money back because of the legislation and how it changed back in November 2018. You've really got to get into the product, and you've got to have a deeper understanding of it. Now, as an agency, it's our role to understand our clients' products like that, and what makes their clients buy from them in order to create this kind of content. But you just couldn't do it if you don't have a handle on your data, or if you don't have additional fields. So in some of the other videos that I do, I show you how to add that additional information. And then in this video, I'm trying to close the loop a little bit to show you how now to create those very specific segments of data that you want to send to. Okay, so that's pretty much a wrap for today, and you're going to see a couple of other playlists, and yeah, if you have a moment, do subscribe and hit that notifications bell to let me to get a notification as and when I publish a new video, which is nearly every Friday, pretty much every Friday. Okay, cheers, bye.